Today we are going to talk about basic turning tools. A basic set of wood turning tools is this kit that I started with. There's still a lot of my go-to tools every day from Harbor Freight, Windsor Design. 8-piece set. In it there is a parting tool. There's a mini bowl gouge. There are 2 spindle gouges, and the difference there is the tang. This has a round tang which is stronger, where this is squared off, so this is not as strong, so it can't overhang and go into a bowl. And this is a crown tool bowl gouges, and you can see how they are extremely strong. But just getting back to the basics, so parting tool, bowl gouge, a mini one, 2 spindle gouges, 2 scrapers, one that's pointed and one that is rounded, and 2 skews. And I've rounded this radius here on the skew a little bit over the life of using them. And then I've made wooden examples to really exaggerate the type of point. So that's a parting tool. This is the skew, which is pointed on both sides. This is a scraper, which the cutting burr is up here, and the angle coming down from the wood is right there. And then this is a representation of a bowl gouge, which shows you have a cutting angle here, here, and here. So I'm going to go over to a piece of wood on the lathe and illustrate how you would use each of these, how you would present it to the wood. Okay, we're on the lathe, and I was talking about spindle turning versus bowl turning. This is a piece of 2x4. Everybody's familiar with it. When you put the 2x4 in the lathe in this orientation, that is spindle turning. This is another piece of 2x4, and when you mount the 2x4 in the lathe this direction, that's an example of bowl turning, where the grain is completely 90 degrees, where the grain is completely opposite from spindle turning. And generally when you're bowl turning, you're matching end grain and side grain, where this you're just pretty much hitting side grain. Different tools, the cutting tips are the same, but the strength of the tools is a basic difference. So now I have my sanding block in here. First tool I want to talk about is the parting tool. The parting tool, when I want to talk about tools, there's 3 basic principles to a wood turning tool. ABC, anchor it, rub the bevel, and then start a cut. And the business end of this is right here, the cut. So you anchor, you rub the bevel, and the bevel is the underside of a tool, and then you rub the tip. And with the parting tool, you can put that on the wood that way, you can bring it down, and then you kind of just run it into the wood just like that. It parts things off, and or it squares up the end. So an example, the real tool, is I just want to bring it in here. I'm anchored, I'm rubbing the bevel. Nice square off end cut. That's how you use parting tools. Now, the next tool we'll talk about is a spindle gouge. Same idea. Anchor. Well, this needs to be turned around. Anchor, rub the bevel, and then talking about the standard spindle gouge, which has a small tang on the bottom here, and cutting surface that goes all the way around. Well, it's further illustrated in this tool with this angle. So there's cutting surface all the way around there. When you put it on the tool rest, you anchor it, you rub the bevel, and then you bring it down to where you can cut. Just like that. And then you can lift the handle and turn, make cuts like that. Also make beads. So to make a simple bead, I'm going to turn this on, use my parting tool to clear a little bit of this out. That'll give some room on my tool. Anchor, bevel, start the cut. And then to make a bead, you just Tim Yoder says you sneak up on a bead. Nice and easy. And where I cut that recess gives my tool a little room. My whole body like that. So that's a basic cut with a spindle gouge. Next up is a scraper. This is a scraper with the point burr here, cuts, and then bevel here. Same idea. Anchor it, rub the bevel, bring the tip down until it starts cutting. And also with scraping, you want to be a little bit below center like this. And this is a pointed scraper, or this is a rounded, scraper. So either one, use it. You don't have to bevel this one, but you do have to anchor it. And just nice and slow. Scrapers are used a lot inside of bowls, inside of hollow forms. And this one is a pointed scraper. You can see just making I also have a point on this, and when I was using it, I wasn't cutting with the whole thing. I would bring it into the wood, and I would cut a little bit on this side, and then I'd straighten it out, and I'd cut a little bit on this side. You don't want to jam the whole thing in there. You just don't want too much force, too much resistance on it. And the last super fun tool is the Skew. This is kind of a rounded radius skew. This is the angle cut of a skew, exaggerated. So when you use the skew, you want to anchor it and put it up on the wood like that, so you're just cutting right here with this very edge. Or you can use it as a blunt scraper. And to do that, exaggerated, you bevel, anchor the whole tool, and then bring it in and do same kind of scraping action. But the Skew is a really nice tool on spindles to get a really light, really wispy cut. And that'll come along, and that'll cut almost as nice as, you know, 400 or 500 sandpaper. Or as you can see, I just brought it down. So you see I just brought it down the angle right here, and using it once again as just a flat nosed scraper. Now, to review, that's the Windsor Design basic tool set from Harbor Freight. I won't even guess how much it costs. I think it's probably around $50 now. All these tools, kind of a variety of tips. They're HSS hardened steel, so they're okay tools. They're not super expensive. They're not cryogenic or powdered metal or anything else. But to get started for a basic set, I still use them quite a bit.